Welcome to Digital Marketing This Week. It's episode 14, recorded September 13th, 2014. Let's go ahead and jump into the fun. Hope everybody had a wonderful week. So, of course, brought to you by Seriously Simple Marketing over at SeriouslySimpleMarketing.com. My name is Chris Mercer. I am a content developer for Seriously Simple Marketing, so you'll see just about all the blog pieces that are there have got my name on them. My specialty is optimization, so I'm all about kind of the analytics and the split testing and figuring out what's going to push the conversions just a little bit higher, and I do that for sales funnels for a lot of clients. Obviously, we're building it out for Seriously Simple Marketing, and of course, I'm the host here at Digital Marketing This Week, or what we like to refer to as DMTW. Now, one other thing you'll notice when I sign the emails, it always goes by Mercer. That is true. I actually do go by Mercer, so feel free if you see me at a conference anytime, just refer to me as Mercer and scream it out in the public, and I'll probably be the guy that turns around. Okay, so let's talk about this week's focus topic. It's going to be list building. So we're going to be talking about list building here. Now, if you have a question, if you're watching this live and you've got a question, you can get answers to your question by visiting this website. Just go to ssm.tips/question. You're going to see a form there. It looks something similar to the form that you see on your screen now. And just enter in your name and the details of your question. Please be as specific as you can. So the more specific that the questions are, the more specific the answers can be. So if it's really general, like, hey, I just want to get leads, how do I do that? I'm going to give you some basic idea, but the more specific that you can get on your situation or what your question's about, even if it's not related to list building, there can be other internet marketing questions maybe you've been wrestling with, or other things you need some advice on, or just want to get a different take on. Feel free to put that information in there, and we'll get you a question toward the end for our insiders, which of course, if you are watching this live, you are an insider. And if you can't watch it live and you're an insider, you can still get access to the Q&A with the replay that we'll be sending out. Now, list building, of course, is the focus topic for today. In fact, we're going to cover 5 surprisingly easy ways to build your list, and the one thing that all good list builders have in common. Now, what we're focusing on here is not traffic. So I want to make that sort of right away. That main idea is not that we're going to say, oh, we just got to put links out here and then it drives traffic to your blog page, and your blog page has an opt-in, and so that's obviously you've got a little opt-in on the sidebar, and that's how you're going to build your list. So we're not talking about that. We're going to assume traffic's a different topic. So we're going to assume traffic. There are lots of ways to do that: sharing Facebook, sharing stuff on YouTube or Twitter or LinkedIn if you're trying to get free traffic, SEO, obviously, catering your blog post to long-term or long-tail keywords so that you can get some really good quality SEO and search traffic coming from Google, Bing, and Yahoo. So there's lots of different ways to get traffic. What we're talking about here is how do we build the list from the traffic that we already have? And that's really what we wanted to focus on for this one, because there's an enormous amount. Remember, my specialty, it's optimization, right? That's my main focus. So I spend my days going, okay, well, how with the resources that we already have, how do we make a better result? Right? How do we create a better result? And that's what this is all about. It's taking the resources that you hopefully already have built out and just going through and showing you some other ways that you can use those resources to get better results. Okay? So let's go ahead and move on to number 1. The very first thing we want to talk about here, I'm going to make sure the presentation catches up to us. There we go. Number 1, pop-ups. So please, please, please use pop-ups. And this is something that I wish I had done years ago, but I wanted to be the marketer that was sort of the anti-marketer, right? So I was the anti-marketer's marketer. It was amazing, and I think everybody kind of goes through this. So at first you start out, and then there are people who are kind of like, okay, well, yeah, I just don't want to do it. I want to be that slimy marketer. I don't want to be throwing pop-ups everywhere. But at the end of the day, there's they've done so many studies. ConversionXL has done some great posts about this. AppSumo's done some great posts about this. Pop-ups just work. From a marketing perspective, from a business perspective, they work. In fact, they work more than they annoy. And this is the thing. Like, people that talk about pop-ups, they're always talking about, oh, they're just annoying. They're annoying for marketers. And I don't think they're really that annoying from a reader's perspective. And here's why I say that. Because as a whole, no one notices that you do pop-ups. We've done them with pop-ups, and we've done them without pop-ups. Nobody notices. Nobody's written me an email to say, hey, Serious Simple Marketing is doing pop-ups. I can't believe you guys are doing this, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't happen. And what's really interesting is that if you don't do a pop-up, right, and think about this, if you don't do a pop-up, somebody comes to your site, they look around, they don't, maybe they see your sidebar blog or something like that for an opt-in, but they don't see a pop-up and they leave. They don't think to themselves, wow, what a great experience that was, there was no pop-up. It doesn't happen. What they care about is the content interesting? Did I engage with the content? Did I get questions to my answers if that's what brought me to the site? Was the page relevant? That's all they care about. And even if you have a pop-up, if you can make that pop-up relevant to the content that's on your site, you're going to get a good response. It's actually become something that's helpful. And I'll show you a plugin that we're starting to use now, and I'm actually liking it more and more for a variety of reasons. And it's called Pop-Up Alley, and I'll show you that in just a second when we jump into the back end of the Seriously Simple Marketing site. But definitely use pop-ups, and there's lots of them out there, Pop-Up Domination and Pop-Up Ally and Subscriber Magnet and all these other things that are out there. But use a pop-up. So if you are not already employing this tactic, please employ the tactic. If you're skeptical in any way, if it's uncomfortable to you to have this pop-up on your site, just try it. Try it for a month, see the results. And what will happen, as was what happened with us, we see this massive improvement in emails that we're now getting that we were completely missing from our traffic before. So people would come, they would see the blog, they would leave, because they're not necessarily going to subscribe to the opt-in sidebar, because that's what everybody does, right? Everybody has a opt-in sidebar subscription. And it kind of is good. It's good, you should have it, but that's what everybody has. So people are used to seeing that. Pop-ups force them to make a decision. It forces the attention, and it forces to ask. And when they determine whether or not they want to take the offer, that's a decision point. That's where you've got them sort of captive, and you can get some really, really good results from that. So please test it. That's why I put it number one, and it's because there's a lot of people out there. And again, I was one of them. I was one of them who was saying, pop-ups, nah, I'm not going to do that. That's not my thing. Try it. You will surprisingly not annoy people, especially if they're relevant to what's going on in your site. People will find them surprisingly helpful because they just really do sometimes want to get more information, and they don't feel like looking around your site as to where to sign up. And the pop-ups can make that a lot easier. So lots of benefits for number one, pop-ups. Surprisingly simple way. Okay, second one. Now this is one that we're getting more and more into, and this is the post-specific offer. And what I mean by post is blog post. So this one's interesting because, again, we're now developing our blog posts, and this is on the Seriously Simple Marketing blog. Right now, our Digital Marketing This Week blog posts have this post on them, or I should say this opt-in on them. So at the very bottom, we do a little, a limited edition of DMTW. It doesn't have the Q&A, and we offer that one for public. People can kind of get the content of it, but they don't have access to the Q&A that we do at the end. And that's obviously just for those of you who are insiders. But at the bottom of this DMTW post, this is sort of where we put this opt-in. So people watch the video, they might get a little, idea of what the post is about or what the webinar itself was about as far as the topic. And at the bottom, it's like, hey, listen, if you've got questions, you want answers to these questions, you can have access to this. You can become an insider. You can join this. And that's where we have this opt-in at the bottom. So the post is all about DMTW. The content's all about DMTW. Finally, at the very end, you've got an opt-in that's specific to DMTW. And that has actually started working pretty well for us. What we're also doing, we're expanding this whole concept out, is we will be doing, as an example, I've got a post coming out that's about empathy maps. And what an empathy map is basically a way of building your avatar, of getting into your market's head and understanding exactly who your market is, right? And it's a graphical image, and what we're doing is we're actually creating a post about empathy maps and how to use them and how to go through the process of it. So you've got that whole post about empathy maps. At the end of this post, there's going to be an opt-in that says, hey, listen, we've got an empathy map for you. If you want, you can download our version, and then you can figure it out and build one yourself instead of creating your own. So we'll actually have that as an offer, and that blog post will only be primarily for that, that blog post opt-in will only be for that blog post, right? So that's sort of what this is all about, is creating an offer that is specific to the actual content that is on the page. And it's, again, for blog posts, we're doing it specific to the blog post. Now, ideally, and this is one thing that we could do better on, and this is just because we've working with other clients who are using the same technique. This isn't just us saying, oh, we're just trying this, you should too. We're trying it because our clients are doing it, and it's working really, really well. And so now we're implementing it. It works amazingly well. And to the point, I'll give you some sort of specifics. So we have a traditional blog, might get 2 or 3% on the sidebar often, maybe, because there's a lot of distraction and people are reading blog posts and they may not really see your sidebar that much. But doing blog-specific opt-ins, we've seen rates anywhere between 30 and 60% opt-in rates. Obviously, sort of depends upon whatever the content of the blog post is. But it's an amazing improvement on the people that land on that page, how many of them end up opting in. Now, ideally, the way to improve this, and this is what we've noticed in working with our clients, so the way to improve these opt-ins, and this is what we can do better on this particular opt-in that you're looking at, is to put the offer, or tie in the blog post in the headline. So right now, this one just says, have a question. It's kind of generic. I mean, this is our first attempt, so this is one we're going to go back and fix, or improve, I should say, not fix, but we'll improve it. But this, what we're going to do now is, want more DMTW, or enjoyed this episode but want more, or want to have a question about, and then whatever the topic of the DMTW was, have a question about episode 13, whatever it was, something that ties in that specific post, so that what happens is it becomes not a generic opt-in, because some people just put the same opt-in and they'll just put a location, right? So it's a location shift. They'll have the opt-in on your sidebar, but then you have, and then some plugins will say, okay, we'll put the opt-in at the bottom of every post. We're not talking about that. This is not a generic opt-in. So if you tie in a specific opt-in that has a specific offer that is specifically related to the content on the page, in this case, digital marketing this week for this example that you're looking at, it will work unbelievably well. It's like a night and day. Now, one thing that we're going to be working with is we want to come up with like a core offer for each individual category of posts. So we might do one, like an offer that talks about WordPress SEO. We might do an offer that talks about WordPress security. So maybe there's like a 20-point checklist for WordPress security or something like that we do. And these can be very simple offers. You don't have to complicate them. They can just be one-page PDFs. In fact, the easiest one to get started, and we will also be testing this. So I can't tell you, I know that people are doing this. I can't tell you from our experience how well they work. But I do know that people are doing this. A PDF copy of the exact blog post they just read. People are opting in for that because they just want to feel like they want to have a copy of it or an archive. So if they really enjoyed your blog post, and if you've got one of those 2,000-word blog posts, there's lots of different steps, you can offer them a PDF summary of the blog post or a PDF of the exact blog post. It doesn't really have to be that complicated at all. Just create a PDF of the web page and have them opt in for that. You can do that. It can be that simple to create these blog-specific offers. Now, personally, we're going to spend a little bit more time, and we're going to create content. And normally it's going to be, again, maybe a checklist or a summary or an image graphic or something that will help to relate directly to the content that we posted. So again, using the empathy map, we're creating an actual image, that'll be branded with Serious Simple Marketing, and it'll actually be an empathy map that you can download and fill out. And that's going to be, it takes a little bit of time on our part, but anybody that lands on that page, I mean, I would imagine we're gonna have an incredibly high opt-in rate, because you're learning about empathy maps. You kind of go like, oh, that's great. I wonder how I can go to get started. So your first thing is maybe I go Google it and see if I can get it somewhere. You don't have to. It's right, copy of an empathy map for free. Here you go. Download ours. Just opt in. So again, these can't even say that. Post-specific offers, right? So content-specific. These are an incredible, incredible way to build your list. And if I had to go with one of these 5 I'm going to talk about, this is the one that I would really, really focus on, because it is an amazing, amazing technique. Okay, next are the 2-step links. Now, 2-step links, this is where you link text or you link images, and then it has a little pop-up, right? So it builds momentum. And I'm going to show you, many of you will be familiar with these because of this page here. Let me just bring this over so you can see it. So this will look familiar. So we actually did tests for we continue to do tests obviously all the time. We're split testing all sorts of stuff, but on our opt-in forms from Facebook. So we do a lot of Facebook traffic for DMTW. when you leave Facebook, you click on the ad, you'll come to this page, and then you can choose whether or not you want the live replay or replay only. And then from there, so these are just images, right? From there, you click, and then you've got your email. And this pops up into the opt-in form. This works so much better than just having an opt-in form right there, because we tried it. We tried it when we first started. And it used to be we didn't have these buttons. We just have the actual opt-in form right there. Like, great, go ahead and enter your name and email below. And for some reason, people would come here, they would go like, oh, yeah, maybe, no, it's okay. And they wouldn't enter their name and email. But when you put these buttons here, it's like, oh, which one do you want? First, I want the live replay. It's a micro commitment. So it's like, yeah, I want to watch it live. You know what? I just want the replay only. Replay only, guess what? Pop up. So it goes into the email list. Now, I'll give you a little side detail. We are currently split testing the first name versus email only. So, you know, sometimes this is kind of fashionable. It used to be like, oh, you got to collect first name because you can personalize your emails. And now the fashionable thing is don't collect first name, because when you personalize an email, it screams that it's fake. So a lot of people have started squawking that. We are testing it because that's just how we are, right? We're not going to just repeat something that somebody else said. So we're actually testing email only versus first name and email. And so far, we've been running this test for the last couple of episodes of DMTW with opt-ins. So far, we've seen no difference. So we're going to probably run this test one more week. If we continue to see no difference in the opt-in emails, we like having the first name. And so we're going to end up switching these all to a first name and an email. So this is slightly unrelated to list building. Actually, it's not, and I'll tell you why. Because one other thing we noticed is people that enter in first name and email were more likely to confirm the double opt-in, because we make everybody double opt-in. And we'll be talking about that in just a second here too. So, you know, double opt-in is obviously the big bad. You got to confirm your email in order to get more stuff, you know, sent to you. But we personally believe the content is pretty good. Hopefully you do as well, since you're watching this now. But if they're not willing to double opt-in, then they're just putting in, and this is sort of the challenge with the double opt-ins, or with a lot of people, not so much with DMTW, because it's a webinar. People know that they have to get a link sent to them, so they're probably putting in a real email. But we did notice a spike of emails that were not being confirmed when they're coming through this email only. So when we tested first name and email, a lot more of those get confirmed right away because they're probably more legitimate. They're probably real. And if you're doing like PDF guides or a resource checklist or something like that, and you have to, where it's just like enter your email to get this, people will put in fake emails just to get your thing. And that's not going to help you. You know, your goal is not the number of people on your list, it's the quality of your list. And so, you know, that's one thing that we're very, very cognizant of. So, and again, we'll be talking about double opt-in in a little bit here. But this other two-step link, so this could be where in a blog post, you'll see people that will say, okay, go ahead and click here to get access to whatever. Okay, so click here to get access to my, 12-step thing, and then that click here is hyperlinked. You can do that where when you, just like I did with that image, you click on the image and it opens up into a pop-up. You can do the exact same thing with text. Now that's pretty cool because you could be talking about something in your blog, and you could say, we do have a checklist for SEO, if or whatever it is, right? A blueprint for bird feeders, a free blueprint for a beginner bird feeder. Then that text link can be hyperlinked, and when they click on it, it pops up into a pop-up. So now they've already said, yes, I'm interested in getting this. Download our free blueprint, bird feeder blueprint. They click on it, pops up, and they're more likely to, and I'd say right now from what we've been about seeing, about half the people that click on those links end up opting in. And a lot of people will click on the link more than will opt in on your subscriber, like on your little sidebar opt-in that a lot of people have. So it is a really, really powerful technique to start using these two-step links. And again, this is the third technique we've talked about here, right? So these, again, surprisingly simple. I want to make sure that these are something that's really simple. And you're not having to improve your traffic. So this is existing traffic coming to your site already. But what are some other ways that you can squeeze just a little bit more into your list? And you do it with pop-ups so far. We've talked about doing it with post-specific content. So again, content that's very specific, an offer that's specific to the page content. And then we've talked about with these links. This is where you're linking text or images, and it does a pop-up. So some really, really powerful ways of doing this. Now, we talked about sidebar a lot, and I'm just assuming that you guys have a sidebar, right? We're assuming that you have a sidebar, and just to make sure that we understand what I'm referencing, just in case you don't have one, this is the very first thing you're going to put up. So this is the Serious Simple Marketing blog. See a little sidebar opt-in. You know, this thing does something for us, but not very much. And again, that is also because we can play with the CTA, the headline. You know, the CTA is kind of like, you know, this little call to action on the button here. We could play with the headline. We can play with the format. So there's lots of stuff we can play with here, but it just doesn't do a lot. And part of it, we're not really expecting it to do a lot because it is a sidebar opt-in. Most sites have these, and people sort of have banner blindness, right? It's like you sort of used to seeing them all the time, so now you stop seeing it as much. But this, you see that people see. So all of a sudden they have to stop and go, wait, let me consider digital marketing this week. Oh yeah, okay. And we have gotten opt-ins on this. So you know, pretty cool little thing here. While I'm here, actually I'm going to come back to this because I want to show you the back end of this plugin. It's a pretty cool plugin. And they have a pro version that we're going to end up buying. This free version is what we're using now, which is kind of why I wanted to show it to you, because you don't have to spend any money if you don't want to. But first, let me go back, and we're going to talk about thinking outside the sidebar. Okay, so we're going to now talk about what else can you do. So the About page, create a offer that's specific to your About page, and put an opt-in there. Resource guides. So this is important because you can actually create a little embed an offer, an opt-in form on a resource guide. Maybe you do a resource guide for, again, let's talk about just niching this out into weird niches. Let's talk about, you're all about bird feeders. So you can create a resource guide on how to find the best bird feeder for blue jays. And then at the bottom of that, you might be like, hey, you know, in order to find the perfect, you know, there's some specific, I've got 7 specific tips on the perfect food to put into your bird feeder. You know, and you can have a name and email form there and just embed your opt-in form there so that people can opt in from resource guides that you're putting out. The cool thing about that too is if people are sharing those resource guides or giving them away or forwarding them, it's an opportunity to actually get some traffic too. Social media, of course. So this is where you're going to be putting out different links. You can do this with, you know, Facebook, pointing them to pages. You know, obviously, we're doing it. We're actually paying for Facebook traffic for DMTW, and we've created this webinar as sort of a lead magnet to bring in people into the Serious Simple Marketing brand. But you can also do it with YouTube, and this is something we need to get better at, because we do a lot of YouTube videos because all of our posts have YouTube videos associated with them. But what we're not doing, and what we need to start doing, is to go through and do a link. So we can actually add a link in the YouTube video. It's like, hey, click here to subscribe. And that way people who aren't coming to the blog post, because that's what we're relying on right now, we're relying on the fact that people see this on YouTube. And you know, when we've got a bunch of people that subscribe to us on YouTube, and if people get a little notice, they go to YouTube, they watch the video, we're relying on the fact they're going to click on the blog link, but they may not. And if they don't do that, we sort of miss that opportunity to ask for the opt-in. And when we're talking about thinking outside the sidebar, this is what we're talking about, thinking about where else you can ask them to join your list, because that's really what this comes down to, is how many different ways can you ask them in a polite manner, in a useful manner, to join your list. So again, social media with YouTube link. In our YouTube videos, you're going to start seeing us put little link requests in there so that people can actually go through and be like, oh, okay, so I can actually join the list here, and they can click on the YouTube link that's actually playing in that YouTube video and be taken to our opt-in. 404 pages. This is where somebody maybe mistyped something, or maybe it's even worse yet, it happens all the time though, where a link is broken. So maybe you set up a link initially and then something changed with your site, or maybe you moved sites and something happened with your links, and you've got these 404 pages. These are basically the pages where it's like, oops, sorry, you've reached a page that isn't found. You can customize that template to put in, you know, and again, this is one of those things where you can't really do a specific content to the page, because it's all going to say the same thing, which is like, hey, nothing's, you know, you're looking for a link and it's broken, there's nothing here, so I'm going to show you this 404 message. Those you can customize at least to put in, but like, hey, stay in touch with us, you know, stay in touch with like the latest and greatest of you know, blue jays and bird feeders, if that's your niche. So you can adjust those. Checklists, same sort of thing like the resource guide. You can create a checklist. We talked about, you know, the 7 different types of food for blue jays. When they download that checklist, then you can have on that opt-in, you can actually embed an opt-in form there. Share rewards. This is kind of a cool thing. There is a plugin called List Eruption is the name of the plugin. It is a paid plugin, but it does stuff like this, and there are other ones out there, so you can just Google them. But basically, this is the sort of thing where, so let's say we have we opt in for a specific offer. Going back to our bird feeders. So you want a free blueprint to the perfect bird feeder, and then you opt in for that, and then it says, great, we've got you, we're going to send you the PDF. If you would like, we can give you, the 7 perfect foods for blue jays and how to attract hummingbirds and whatever else. And all you need to do is just share it. So share this with 3 people, it'll unlock that content. And now what happens is you've got a little viral going on. So now you're going to have actual people going through and seeing your offer, right? So the initial offer, and then they're sharing it with their friends. So you get the benefit of additional traffic, and you're able to get some more opt-ins and leads from there. And ideally, it's pre-qualified traffic because it's a referral. Category pages is another thing. Speaking of WordPress, so category pages are those pages where whenever you set up, like we've got a category called WordPress when we do blog posts, and anything that relates to WordPress, we'll put under that category. So some people can go to or anybody could can go to SeriousSimpleMarketing.com/WordPress, and you'll see all the different posts that were tagged as category. You can adjust that template as well if you wanted to, and you could put an opt-in specifically there if you wanted to. Now for ours, they just kind of look like blog pages, so we still have the sidebar. But you could. It's another place to do it. Ask Agains are pretty interesting because this is where you could basically have 2 pop-ups. But hear me out, because I know you're already thinking like, oh my God, really? So let's say you come to the Seriously Simple Marketing blog, or let's go back to our bird feeders. You go to the bird feeder blog, and there's a pop-up after about 30 seconds. Like, we don't do them right away. And that's something you could tap, how many opt-ins you get, and wait 15 seconds or 2 minutes or whatever. But we want them hooked on our content. We want them already sticking around the page for a while. And so for us, it's I believe it's 30 seconds where we currently have it. But let's say on your bird feeder blog, they come to find out about the perfect bird feeder, and they're looking at your page, and they're pretty interested, and they're kind of scrolling up and down the page, and if after 30, 40 seconds, a pop-up comes up, they go, okay, well, no, I'm not really interested in that. I want to go back to my blog post, and they go back to that, and then they're kind of like, okay, well, now again, let's assume that your sidebar opt-in is there. They're still kind of blind to it because they've seen it. Their brain sort of, interpreted it as something not useful at this point. They're unless something really compelling and a call to action on your blog post is there. So, for example, if you have a blog-specific content post, that's a great way to recapture them. But the other thing that you can do is an Ask Again, and an Ask Again with a pop-up is where now they're going up to the exit, right? So you can actually create, there's plugins that will measure when somebody's heading toward the exit, heading toward the X, right? Closing their browser, going to close the tab. And when it notices that they're doing that, it'll do another pop-up. But this one's customized for that specific situation. So it's not the same pop-up they saw in the beginning, it's a different one. And it says, wait, before you go, are you sure we can give you this, this, and this? And it's like, oh yeah, totally, that would be great. Now, not everyone's going to do that. Some people just close it out again. But the fact that you're asking them at the end, hey, wait, before you go, just want to make sure, can you do this? Would you like this? Would this be helpful? You've got additional opportunities. And you're not having to improve your traffic. You're not having to pay for traffic if you don't want to. It's just the existing traffic that's there. You're asking more times in more different ways. And that's what makes it, again, such an incredible, incredible technique. The other one that you can do is comments. So this is where, when you go to leave a comment on a blog, a little box there that checks in. So you can do that. There are plugins that will actually embed opt-in forms on comments so that you can do those as well. In fact, Subscription Magnet is a plugin that does the comment integration. The other thing is, and this is the 5th thing here, so we talked about thinking outside the sidebar, which is come up with all these other ways that you can get this. But the 5th thing is on the double opt-ins, okay? So we really care about quality for our list, and I'm not afraid of double opt-ins. Yes, do they hurt rates? Probably a little bit, but anybody who's not willing to click on a link, which is all this is, right? So they're willing to click on a link and then confirm that we actually have the right email, they're just not going to be engaged enough for us anyway, right? And the way that we have our system set up, we actually use Infusionsoft, And the way that we have it with Infusionsoft is we can send that out a few times. So here's what I mean by that. Like with Aweber, which is not bad because we used Aweber for years. Aweber is great. If that double opt-in somehow gets into spam and somebody doesn't realize it and they close it out, it doesn't get sent again. They just get that one sort of request. And that's not bad. Again, we've used double opt-in forever with Aweber and it's been fine. So by and large, 95% of our people have opted in. The rest of them, potentially were just fake emails. So it's been great. But with Infusionsoft, we have the opportunity to do a first, second, and third request. So if somebody says, hey, we get the first request, a day later we'll send them a reminder. A day later we'll be kind of like, hey, listen, just want to make sure you're not going to get any more emails from us if you don't click this link. And if they're not doing that after that third time, again, they're not engaged enough to participate in clicking on a link that just confirms that yes, they want to receive this information, then we're not going to send them any of their email. They're just not on our list. We'll erase them. We'll dump them because it's just not worth it. But one thing that we did that dramatically improved our double opt-in rates was letting people know, because we initially thought, okay, great, we're going to do this, and we're marketers. We're kind of used to seeing double opt-ins all the time. But and we would say like, okay, great, go check your email. But now when we did this step 1, step 2, and this is the actual that you'll see on our thank you page for DMTW. So after you subscribe to DMTW, you see this graphic where it says step 1, go check your email. You've got a double opt-in. Step 2, fill out the survey below. When we started doing that and actually just putting a step-by-step process of what people should do, our double opt-in rate, the confirmation rate, skyrocketed. It was awesome. And it went from like, half the people, which is weird because I've just never seen it that low, to all of a sudden, most people, the vast majority of people, were doing this because they knew to go look for it. They knew it was, oh, wait, hang on a second, I'll go do it right now. And that worked out really, really well. So when you're doing, and again, this is list quality, and building a list has its numbers, but it's also quality. If you're going to be doing double opt-in, which again, I'm not afraid of, I kind of like it. The only thing I don't make people double opt-in for is if they buy a product, and that's because it would be horrible to buy a product and have to double opt-in and that accidentally went to spam and then you paid money for it and you're kind of freaking out. So I try to get the login information as fast as possible. But we also want them to confirm their email for future updates. But for things like giveaways that you're doing, to have them double opt-in. Again, if they're not willing to click on the link to confirm the email, chances are not really a great person to have on the list anyway. They just want that one-time hit. And an email should be, so that's kind of what we're looking for there. And again, this double opt-in, doing some directions of saying, hey, here's what you do. We could also improve this ourselves by putting a little graphic of maybe the email itself with a subject line so people can instantly visualize what that's going to look like. So when they go check their Gmail or Outlook, they can see it and be like, oh, wait, that's it. That's my email. That's what I've been looking for. So there's lots of ways that we can continue to improve it. But just doing this little graphic right here, and this, again, we made with OptimizePress 2.0. I think it's called Step Element or something like that. For those who are familiar with OptimizePress, you'll know what that means. But super easy to create and a huge, huge help. Now, the one thing that all good list builders have in common, right? This is the one thing. They test. They test, they test, they test. Now, here's an example. I see a lot of people use the generic buttons. The generic buttons say submit. I actually was working with a client earlier and he's got a pop-up and he was doing the list building stuff, but his big giant button said submit. Nobody wants to submit. Think about that. If I was like, hey, I would like you to submit to me, it's like, oof, like it feels like an order, or it feels like I'm somehow higher than you, or that you're subservient, right? Like submission, like bleh. I don't even know why that became the word that some programmer put up on the original days of opt-ins, I guess, and it just stuck on with form code. But submit is horrible. So if you have submit or even subscribe, so subscribe is okay, it's better than submit, but what do they really get? So switch it to something like, okay, what are they getting? If it's really access to something, then say, hey, give me access, or get my access, or get me started. Something that's benefit driven. Send me my guide. Along those lines. You actually just change the text that's on the button. Yes, I want this. I'm in. You can do all sorts of different CTAs, call to actions, for these buttons that will automatically improve your opt-in rates. And again, not having to improve your traffic, not having to worry about any of that. It's just taking existing traffic, tweaking and testing the opt-in forms. And you've heard how we're already going to be doing this just with the examples we went through on today's show. So we've gone through and said, okay, we've seen this DMTW blog-specific offer. We understand, have a question is not a good headline. We've tested it. It's decent. I mean, it works, but it's mostly working probably because of placement that it relates. But we can make it work better by mentioning the episode title in there, by mentioning DMTW in there, by tying it in more specifically to that exact post. We'll get a better result. And so that's just something we test, and that's how we know that, because we've been testing it. So that's kind of the basics of our list building, and I know we've got some questions coming in already, which is great. So I will go ahead and do that. There are some also coming in the list. So Eileen, I will definitely get you those as well. In the meantime, I want to cover just a real couple of quick things that have hit on the news items just to make you aware of. Number one, if you have not heard yet, Twitter is enabling a buy button. This is going to be pretty big, because this should, hopefully they're going to figure this out, let's assume. But Twitter really has, I'm surprised how many people interact with us on Twitter. And we use Buffer app to go through and put out tweets, and then we live tweet a couple of times. And we're not using Twitter to its full extent. Like, we don't have conversations back and forth with people, which is what, to use Twitter, you should be doing that. We don't do that anywhere near what we could. But it's a pretty responsive, people interact a lot there with us. And so this buy button is intriguing. It's not available to everybody yet. And this is kind of why it's good to know about it now, because what they're doing is they're testing, and this is the link to the article, and we'll have this on the show notes when we put out the replay. But when you look at this article, it's got a list of about 20 different companies that are their pilot projects, and obviously big national brands, stuff like that. But essentially what will happen is you'll see this little tweet come through with what these little tweet cards, right? These little card decks that they now have that you can buy when you're doing Twitter advertising, and you click buy. When you click on buy, it goes to a secondary screen where it's got more details about the purchase, and then you can put in your information. Now, it's probably going to be like this one-time put in your credit card thing, at least I'm guessing. I don't know for a fact yet, because it's just now being tested and rolled out. But if your information once, Twitter then has it, now you're connected. So now the next time you go to buy, it's more one-click, more like Amazon. And how cool is this? So you're advertising your bird feeders. You come up with this brand new blueprint for a double-decker bird feeder house, and you can put that on. Hey, we just launched this new product. It's great. You can get a picture of it, and how easy it is, or whatever for the blueprints. Maybe you're just selling the bird feeder completely assembled, and there's a picture and it says buy. I click on buy. It goes, yep, that's awesome. That's the one I want. I click buy again, or confirm purchase, or whatever Twitter's going to do, and it's being Twitter already has all my information, just like Amazon. So this could be really, really big, something to keep on your radar. Again, at this point, you can't participate in it, because this is just for those little private beta testers, these big giant companies who have lots and lots of millions of dollars to put toward this. But if this works well, this is something would be really interesting to play with. And already, technically, you can do opt-ins on this too. I didn't mention that, but you can totally do an opt-in form already for Twitter advertising. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is Penguin 3. So this is the new Penguin update that's coming through, and this is where everybody's going to start freaking out about SEO. So Google has basically announced and said, yes, there will be a new Penguin update coming out. This is the third one. So the last one was about a year ago, almost a year ago. And this is the one where Penguin's the one, when they change it, things happen. Like, people start adjusting their sites, and it targets certain types of bad sort of spammy sites and all that other stuff, and everybody learns to adjust their SEO. So this is something that can move an industry. So this next update, they have said, will be in 2014. Now, as of this recording, it's September 2014, so they don't have that much of 2014 remaining, which means it's coming out soon. So this, again, is just something to keep in mind. In general, as long as you're not doing anything that's spammy, you're not paying for links, you're not paying for fake friends and all this other stuff that's just, just don't do that. Or if you thought about it, don't do that. Don't go to somebody with Fiverr and have them send you 500 backlinks because they're useless. If you're producing good content, good shareable content that people engage with and people share, you will naturally get good SEO eventually. It does take a little longer, but that's what you need to do. If you keep doing that, and that's all. It's a long game, admittedly, but if you keep doing that, you're going to survive all these different updates. You only really have to kind of freak out about this if they figured out how to, let's say, find the latest blog farming, algorithm, and they can find out if you've got a blog farm, which is where you basically create a lot of different niche sites and have them all linked together, but secretly you own them all, so it looks like you got a lot of backlinks, but really it's just you linking all of your sites together. And people make these really intricate, some people have thousands of sites that do that, but eventually Google can detect a pattern. If they do, and they go, you know what, this is actually manufactured, this isn't real, then gone, goes away. So just some interesting things to keep in mind of what's coming up. And with that, I want to say thank you for joining us again for this episode number 14. I can't believe we're doing this 14 weeks now. And we will see you all on the next episode. Thanks again.